Hi, I'm Francois Mazoudier. I'm the CEO and founder of the Fundraising Bootcamp. Personally, I'm the old man of technology. I've been in 8 technology startups spanning the globe. I've had one success story and a NASDAQ IPO. I've had a total bankruptcy, pretty much everything in the middle. So over the course of my long career, I think I've had the good, the bad, and the really ugly of building and exiting tech companies. Today we run a bootcamp, which is a very, very dense, intense, hardcore training program, in effect, that prepares you to get funding from the very best investors. The internet is full of absolutely free and terrible advice run by people that don't have the experience or the track record or risk-taking of venture investing. We fixed that. So what has changed between now and 4 or 5 months ago? A lot has changed. It can be summarized in 3 things, in my opinion. The first one is, as a founder, you should expect a much slower overall process. If you believe statistics, we do. We're big on hard data. DocSend will show you that the average successful Series A closes in about 22.5 weeks. I believe that this will be extended by another 3 to 4 weeks. So expect this to be a 6 months plus process from beginning to end. Number 2, what you're going to, or you should expect, is a much more formal process again. Whereas people were very happy to have coffee chats and conversations and fast track the overall internal processes of a venture capital fund, you're going to see that they are reverting back to base. Are we taking the time? Are we assessing what the founders say? Do the founders actually say something and do it? Are they just talkers, or do they walk the walk? Expect a lot more dragging on of these pre-investment relationships, as investors want to verify and be sure that you can actually deliver what you say. Number 3, what you should expect is a return to much more complex term sheets. The offers you're going to get, which were lauded as founder-friendly, single class, no preferences, no dirty tricks, are no more. You should now expect to have much more complicated contracts with many more clauses that we thought were over and finished, never to return, and expect the nasty side of capital fundraising, and that is there's about 10 nasty term sheet tricks. We teach them and how to avoid them. I can take an example, which is going to be a compounding effect of preferences. I can name double dips and loads of other nasty term sheets that typically will protect the downside for investors and will not protect you against anything, possibly wipe you out, even if the company overall does well. We have plenty of examples of IPOs of big name companies that where the founders is left with 0%, and I mean 0%. So what are the biggest mistakes or the most common mistakes that startup makes whilst fundraising? Well, sadly, there's a long list of mistakes that startup makes. It starts with lack of preparation, and I blame the media for that. You always hear about the story of the founder who has raised a huge amount of money in just a few days with one tiny 15-page pitch deck. That's not the reality. You have also heard about these pitch deck doctors and self-acclaimed gurus telling you that all you need is one document and a well-presented, well-designed, pretty pitch deck is all you need to fundraise. Wrong. And I'm sure you've also heard that it takes just 4 to 6 weeks to secure your round of funding, which statistically, with any report, any hard data you can find on the internet, will show exactly the opposite. In short, founders want to believe what they want to believe, not the actual stats and the averages. So mistake number 1, lack of preparation, lack of documentation, lack of clarity. The second reason, most common mistake people make, is that they talk to anyone in any order at any time, and they end up with having loose relationships that they forget about, or they get sidetracked with one investor instead of putting all investors on one and single calendar timeline. And that usually is bad news because it leads to 2 things. The first one is that you have conversations that are completely disorganized, and therefore you don't bring any of them to completion. And number 2, you set your calendar from your investors' calendars. And that's not good because they have all the time in the world and they play the clock against you. You will always run out of cash before they do. And therefore, if you're out of cash, out of time, you tend to accept clauses and contracts that you wouldn't in normal conditions. You always win. And if you play the clock, they will always win. Number 3, and I think the most important one in life in general, fundraising is another sales process with well-structured, clearly delimited milestones, processes, and things to do. Is most founders do not know the other side of the table. And if you want to sell something to someone, you have to understand the other person's needs, what they expect. And in the case of fundraising, you need to understand they have a job to, they have targets to, they have things to accomplish to. They get paid in a certain way. If you don't understand what an LP, a VC, and a GP means, if you don't understand what their fund structure and their pay is like, when, how it works, then you're not really aligned. You don't understand, and it's just a one-way pitch. You deliver your pitch, and you don't really care about the person. What's in it for them? What's their return on investment? What's their selection criteria? Have they already invested in a company just like you, and you're wasting everybody's time? Are they not interested in your company because you're simply not in the sector that they invest in? Loads of these things. Basically knowing the other side, understanding how they get paid, how they assess you, what they need to hear, even if they don't ask you. This kind of stuff most founders don't do. If you do this, you're going to be the one in a million. So how many hours should startups prepare for before going fundraising? And the answer is, it's not going to be hours, it's going to be days and weeks and weeks. Let's start with the hard stats. The hard stats, DocSend, if you know this, the platform that allows you to track and measure how investors click, read, how long they spend on which pages, etc., has got some hard statistics. And it's not great news for founders because you're going to need more and more contacts, more and more meetings for the same outcome. But on average, if you believe the 100,000 plus stats that they have produced, you're going to need 22.5 weeks from first to closing and being paid. Yep, I said it again, 22.5. There's going to be 6 months. So as the world of venture capital is slowing down, sometimes collapsing, receding, guess what? You have now a bunch of rogue actors coming to the fore, filling that gap. It's normal. And the question is, how do you spot them and what to do about them? So first thing first, you're going to have to spot those that are not who they claim to be. There's a few signals. I'm going to use some examples. There's loads of others. People are very smart at scamming other people. The obvious one is going to be investors who claim they have a fund, but actually they haven't. Or if they have one, they're not even at the first close and are nowhere near having the amount of capital needed for them to go to market. In effect, you become a marketing brochure logo. They want companies like you to list opportunities when they go pitching to their investors, raising funds. They say, look, we have amazing investment opportunities. That's you, but they haven't raised a fund. And if you think that raising a fund for a startup is difficult and it will take 6 months, it's another thing raising a VC fund. It can take 18 to 4 years. You certainly don't want to get involved with them if you don't have certainty of capital availability. So just ask them and then check online. Do they have a registered fund? When did they start fundraising? If it's been dragging out and out and out and they don't have funding secured and guaranteed, walk away. Second example that I dislike, because it's just not transparent and I hate that, is service providers. Fundraisers, professionals, introduction experts, whatever they call themselves, acting as investors, spending your time, you're explaining, you're preparing, you're presenting, and then at the end of those presentations, they realize that you are struggling to fundraise, and they turn around saying, well, if you pay me, then I can help you close this round. What happens is what you thought was a pitch meeting turns into a supplier selling their services to you, and you're going to have to buy them. Again, nothing wrong against service providers, fundraisers, and professional outfits. What is wrong is the lie in their approach. And I dislike this because the one thing you don't have is available time. Of course, there are a lot more examples. I'm not going to go through all of them, but typically just check that whatever the person says is actually the truth. You're going to find very quickly that funds don't exist. They haven't closed their round. They haven't even closed their first close of the round, and they're acting like VCs and ready to deploy capital when they're not. I hate that because it's pure waste of your time. Typically what you're going to see, which is much finer, is the change in the term sheet clauses. Plenty of terrible clauses that you should not sign, and they're going to claim that it's industry standard. They're going to push term sheets to you that actually do not come from the Association of Venture Capital of the country. It's anything but standard. These very unsavory terms will include stacking up of preferences, stacking up of interest rates. And as you know, 2 interest rates, all compounding, turn into an algorithmic curve. You're going to pay more in interest than you're going to pay of the principal. So typically have someone who is a good advisor, has gone through all these dirty tricks and can help you negotiate them out. But expect that you're going to see term sheets loaded with stuff that is not founder friendly anymore. If you don't know how to navigate those, and it is a bit of a nightmare, come to our bootcamp. So there are many reasons why founders should join us, but I'm going to try and keep it tight. The first one is that most founders believe what is written on the internet and they fail. 90% of founders apply what they read online, and it is not the way to close your round of funding successfully. So don't believe the hype, don't follow the hype, follow the hard data, follow the methods and methodologies that actually work. Sounds simple, and it's amazing that most people don't do it. Number 2, you have to learn a few basic points, otherwise you don't understand the game. If you don't understand how VCs work, how they think, how they assess you, how they filter out the deal flow, and why they invest, how to trigger them into seeing the opportunity in you, they're not going to invest. So you need to learn this, and you're not going to learn this online. Number 3, what you need to have is a very clear process of what needs to be done by when. You don't need one single pitch deck or one single document. You don't need to spread to 10 million emails the same documents. You need to adapt and be smart about it. That's what we teach you. Number 4, because there's nowhere else that guarantees you 100% money back guarantee. If you are not happy with the program, take the money back, no questions asked. Today we have over 200 companies from seed to Series B. The first third has gone to market and fundraised successfully, 98% success rate, and they have raised over 180 million euros already. We're on track for these 200 companies to go and close their rounds to the tune of about 400 million euros, possibly $500 million. We think it's quite unique. It's all in the numbers. It's a methodology. It takes 5 days. If you want to invest in your round of funding, spend those 5 days. So what are the 3 things that I would recommend to a startup founder planning to fundraise? There's way more than 3 things I would recommend, but to keep it short, the first one I would recommend is please prepare. It's going to be long, painful, tedious, repetitive. Different people have different expectations. It's a game of humans. If you don't understand the human side of raising a fund, you don't understand fundraising, period. Prepare. Number 2, you're going to have to control the process, because it's very easy to talk to one investor here, one investor there, and you completely miss the boat. You're going to have to set a calendar, understanding what investors need to do internally to complete their processes before they can send a check to you, and understand which investor is good for you. It's incredible how so many founders today think that because a VC fund has capital, it's a good fund. If it's mismatched, you're wasting everybody's time, and most people do. Bit sad, but that's the reality. Finally, number 3 is that you're gonna have to change your attitude. You're not begging, you're not raising money. That's not true. You're actually selling shares in a business that today is gonna be worth 1, tomorrow is gonna be worth 100. You're gonna make investors the biggest return on investments. I know that because if they didn't see this in you, they wouldn't invest. They need massive size returns, massive. So you have, and you are building, you're putting your entire life, time and effort and resources into this one opportunity to make them create massive returns on that investment. Without startups, there's no investing. Without you, they have no reason of being. So change your tune a bit. You're not begging, you're not hoping for funding. You make yourself fundable, you structure yourself, and you get the very best investors. So be relaxed about it and feel comfortable and confident.